Hello, my darlings, and welcome to 24 Days of Advent Adventure. And today is day 9. We're going back in time again, my loves, all the way to Silent Night. And it's the third instalment in this beautiful little short story novels. Well, novelettes. Yes, novellas. This one is called No Man's Land by Susan Gates. Now, we start off, it's Christmas morning. Mum's in the kitchen and she's been there since 6 a.m. putting the turkey on and getting everything prepared and ready for Christmas dinner. Now Jake's having quite the morning. He's a spoiled little brat, is James. And James proper kicks off because he didn't get a football for his Christmas present. And in a strop, he throws a beautiful hand-knitted pair of gloves that his great-gran had made for him on the floor, and really felt the rage burning within him in front of his own mum. And his mum said, "You spoiled little brat, how dare you? How dare you say that about your gran? Throwing her gloves that she's made for you on the floor. You're lucky you've got all those presents. There's some children in faraway countries that'll give the right arm to have some of the presents that you've got. How dare you be so rude? How dare you?" And suddenly the smell of burning coming out the kitchen, and Mum yells, "Oh, my sprouts!" and rushes off to go and sort it out. Much to Jake's relief, because he thought, "Oh heck, I'm up for it now. I've absolutely had it. My mum's gonna absolutely execute me." She gives that look, you know, the look that most mums give when they want to turn you to stone. Yeah, I've got that secret power as well. But I only use it occasionally. Anyway, Jake, in a fit of absolute rage because he didn't get a football for Christmas, storms off to his great-gran's home. She lives in a warden-assisted flat. And he storms round there and says, "Gran, have you got any microwave chips?" And she goes, "Yes, of course, love. I'll go get you some." And then gets him some ketchup to go with them, because, you know, she spoils Jake. And that's where the problem is. Jake's been well and truly spoiled too much, way too much. And he starts complaining to Grandma that he didn't get the football that he wanted for Christmas. Gran, being Gran, says, "Oh, I think I've got a football somewhere." And Jake rolls his eyes and says, "Yeah, right, Grandma. You probably knitted one, but I don't think you've actually got one." Anyway, off Gran trots and rummaging around in one of the cupboards, and eventually comes back with a very dusty looking box. And inside the dusty looking box is a very old leather football. And that where Jake's Christmas, this is where Jake gets more than he bargained for on this Christmas Day. Because there's something very strange about this football. Very strange indeed. And I'm just going to read you a little bit from this novel, from this little short story. Okay? Jake ripped open his last present. He'd been hoping against hope, even though it wasn't ball-shaped. When he saw it was a pair of gloves, his face scrunched into a scowl. "Where's my football?" he said. "What?" Mum poked her head out of the steamy kitchen. It was only just after breakfast, but she was already cooking Christmas dinner. She'd got up at 6 o'clock that morning to put the turkey in. My football, demanded Jake. You said I'd definitely get one for Christmas. Did I? Said his mum vaguely, fanning herself to get some cool air. It's like a sauna in that kitchen. I said I wanted one, and you promised. Did I? Repeated Mum, looking as if she had more important things on her mind. I told you, said Jake. He felt bad temper blooming inside him like an evil flower. And he'd been in a great mood when he got up this morning. I told you loads of times. I can't remember that, said Mum. She frowned suddenly. I've still got those potatoes to peel. What was I supposed to do? Tattoo it up here? Buy Jake a football? As he dragged his finger across his forehead. I thought you were listening. He made an ugly face at the gloves. They were woolly, from his great-gran. She probably knitted them herself. He wouldn't have minded a cool pair from a skateboarding shop. Stupid gloves. He chucked them across the room. He knew he was taking a big risk. Mum wasn't the patient type at the best of times, but on Christmas morning she could go off like a firework. And that's what she did now. Don't you start, she exploded. You ungrateful brat. You've got loads of nice presents, and you're moaning about not having a football. You should be ashamed of yourself. Some poor kid in a refugee camp will give his right arm for those gloves. Jake opened his mouth to protest. He wanted to explain how he'd already told his mates he was getting a football, how it was all arranged. In 20 minutes they were meeting him at a field for a game. What were they going to say when he turned up without a ball? But Mum, he said. She gave him that killer shark glare. You know the one? I'm very good at it. The one that could shrivel you up. Oh, yes, we do. We've got ice water in our veins when we need it. You think I'm giving you a hard time now? You haven't even seen nothing yet. Any second now, I'm going to blow like a volcano, and you better run for cover. Jake backed down. Better not upset her. Mum had the whole family coming for Christmas dinner. She probably already started on the sherry. Gin in this house, darling. Gin and tonics at 10 a.m. on a Christmas morning. Oh, yes. I don't have a problem. Dad was keeping out of the way down the shed. Yeah, sensible plan, Dad. Reluctantly, Jake clamped his mouth shut. Mum hung around in the doorway, still looking dangerous. But then a timer went off in the kitchen. Ping! Oh, my sprouts! Shouted Mum, and she ducked back into the steam. Phew, those sprouts saved my life, said Jake, wiping imaginary sweat off his forehead. It was no good. He was never going to get Mum to understand his bitter disappointment. He stomped out of the house, his shoulders hunched, and headed for the park. It's not fair, he hissed through gritted teeth. He'd dropped loads of hints about that football. He'd even shown her the one he wanted in the shop window. He gave a big sigh. And I thought she was taking it all in, he said. There was a Coke can on the pavement. He gave it a vicious kick. Mum had no idea what it was like. Every time he wanted a kickabout, he had to wait for someone to turn up who had their own ball. That meant Bradley, who had about 2 brain cells. He always got the time wrong. He arrived after you got fed up and gone home, or he went to the wrong place and waited for hours wondering, why am I the only one here? Or Harry, who was dead keen and always turned up right on time, but was an absolute rubbish at football. It was frosty. Ice sparkled on the pavement. Jake cupped his cold hands and puffed hot breath into them. He should have worn those Christmas gloves after all. Maybe they won't turn up, he thought, hopefully. Fat chance. 2 were waiting already, stamping about to keep themselves warm. They had new football strips on. They got what they wanted for Christmas, thought Jake. 3 others were straggling across the park. Lenny was using his mobile. It's probably phoning my house, thought Jake, to say, we can't start without you. You're bringing the ball. Get your lazy butt out of bed. But it reminded him he'd asked for a mobile for Christmas too, one of the latest models, but he knew he'd never get that, not in a million years. At the last minute he veered away from the field, dodged through some bushes. He just couldn't face his mates. It was too embarrassing. They'll think I was lying again, he told himself. Sometimes he did lie, saying he'd got things his mum and dad couldn't afford. He'd got into big trouble with that trail bike. Yeah, my dad bought it me, he boasted. And of course they'd all beg, give us a ride in it. He had to do even more lying to get out of that one. He felt sorry for himself. All I wanted this time was one crappy football. It wasn't like he was asking for the world. He didn't want to go home yet, so he knocked on Great Grand's door. She lived in an old people's bungalows just outside the park. She looked surprised when he walked in. She was still in a dressing gown. It's not that time already, is it? She said. I thought your dad was picking me up at 12. He is, said Jake, slumping into a chair. I'm here on my own. Got any microchips? After he glugged red sauce on his chips and slotted a few into his mouth, he felt happier. Hey, thanks for the gloves, he told Great Grand grudgingly. Did you get some nice presents? Things you wanted? I didn't get a football. He just couldn't help blurting it out. And Mum practically promised me one. That's a shame, said Great Grand, grieving along with him. Then her look brightened. Wait a minute, she said. I've got a football somewhere. Jake stared at her, a microchip halfway to his mouth. Have you? Magic, was his first thought. Then he thought again. What kind of football? He asked suspiciously. Great Gran knew nothing about footballs. It was probably a little kid's blow-up beach ball. It was probably one she'd knitted. Oh, it's a proper one, said Great Gran, as if she was reading his mind. She bustled out of the room. He heard her rummaging around in the cupboard under the stairs. It belonged to your great-granddad. Who? Said Jake. My dad, explained Great Gran, coming back with a dusty cardboard box. I haven't looked at it in donkey's years. She lifted it out of the box. It just needs pumping up a bit, she said. Jake groaned. Why had he got his hopes up? It was a proper football, all right. It was even made of leather. But it was a joke. It was the saddest, scabbiest, most scuffed football Jake had ever seen. He couldn't help grinning. Gran, it's a mess. It looks like a dog's been chewing it. I can't take that down park. My mates'll fall about laughing. Great Gran looked hurt. Is it no good then? I suppose it is a bit old. How old? Said Jake. Great Gran did some counting up in her head. About 90 years old. Jake burst out laughing. Gran, it's as old as you. It's ancient. It should be an Antiques Roadshow. To all people that live outside the United Kingdom, the Antiques Roadshow is known as Fiona time in our house. Oh yes, my husband has a thing for his Fiona. Watch Antique Roadshow. It's on Sunday nights, and my husband loves it. Mostly loves Fiona. I can see why, she is pretty. Anyway, back to the story. Great Gran looked hurt again. Just to please her, Jake pretended to be interested in the football. He took it from her. Ow! As soon as he touched it, a cold, tingling feeling surged up his arms. When it reached the back of his neck, it made the hairs lift, like they do when you're scared. But what was there to be scared of? He was safe here in Great Gran's bungalow. She even had an alarm to call the warden. Quickly, he put the ball down. He rubbed his tingling arms, picked up his box of chips, but he couldn't shake off that strange feeling of dread. He even looked over his shoulder, as if there was someone hiding behind his chair. Put that ball away, Gran, he shuddered. I don't want it. Put it back in the box. And that, my darling, is where I'll leave you. You must get a copy of this book. Honestly. I'm sure it'll even be available on Kindle. Oh, that's a very atmospheric, creepy little tale. And Jakey boy, you're going to get more than you bargained for on this Christmas Day. Oh, yes, you are. Yep, so that concludes day 9. Yep, of the 24 Days of Advent Adventure. This story came out in 2002, 22 years ago, when I was 26 years old and a young mum. A very, very first Christmas with my little girl, who is now 22. Oh, how time flies. It truly, truly does. But yeah. So that one was written by Susan Gates. It's called No Man's Land from 2002. As I said, that concludes day 9 of 24 Days of Advent Adventure. Come back tomorrow, my darlings, when I will have maybe another scary tale, maybe another ghoulishly horrible Christmas creepy tale. You never know. But we'll have fun. Now, say what I always do. Happy readings, darlings, and enjoy. And if you've enjoyed what I've done, you can give me a thumbs up. And if you really enjoy what I've done, you can always give me a follow and come with me on this amazing adventures that we're having for Christmas of 2024. Bye-bye, my darlings.